Do you ever look back at some of the things that you learnt in school and just think, in what conceivable world am I ever going to need to use this piece of information? I do too. So in this video we're going to be going through some of the key harsh money lessons that you were never taught at school and how you can overcome them. The extent of my financial education at school was we had one sit down with a teacher who just said, when we were all about to turn 18, don't borrow loads of money. Great. Phenomenal stuff. Absolutely excellent. Thing that separates the rich dad from the poor dad. The world is designed to separate you from your money. Companies will spend billions trying to get your eyeballs, trying to get your money, trying to get your attention in this ever-competitive universe. You can't scroll social media for more than 2 seconds without trying to be sold a t-shirt or a flask or a wallet that can go through a hacksaw or something. And it sounds really cynical, but I think this is really a tough lesson that people have to learn. So what can you do to prevent this? The first is try and avoid impulse purchasing. Automate your savings. By putting them in a separate account, you're less likely and the money is less available for you to spend. Set your spending priorities. There's a big difference between being rich and looking rich. This online social media culture that we find ourselves in is constantly flooding you with, the Kardashians or big opulent houses or fast and expensive cars or Rolexes on the wrist. And this goes back to the previous point. Credit card companies are out there desperately hoping that you go out and spend money. They've got their fingers crossed that you're going to go out and splurge on something that you don't necessarily need. And this is a key lesson. The people who want to look rich are buying assets that are only ever going to depreciate in value. But people who are rich, or people who want to be rich, almost more importantly, buy things that are cash flowing and are going to increase in value over time. And this for me is a key thing. Financially healthy people have a strong sense of self-worth, and so they don't necessarily need to show off, they don't necessarily need to be flashy. They're quite happy to be secret millionaires, just like in the book. And their self-worth isn't dependent on the whims of other people or what's fashionable or what's hot at the time. You'll need to talk about money with your friends and family. Don't get me wrong, this isn't an episode of Succession.
Take the fucking money.
Where everyone's trying to get their bit of the pie or anything sinister like that. And a poll in April 2022 showed that 56% of adults thought talking about money was taboo. And that's not talking about salaries, talking about just money, period. Now, we should probably caveat this up front by saying that not everyone in your family necessarily knows best. We have a video about this very topic. Bullshit boomer financial advice that you should definitely ignore. Link is in the description. And once you accept that you're going to need to talk to your family at some stage about money, it could be something doom and gloom like wills, like inheritance tax, maybe they need to borrow money from you. You sort of get used to the idea and you accept and you start to treat it as you start to look at the numbers that are involved. The importance of a good credit score. Now, without a good credit score, things can get really difficult for you. Lending becomes more difficult. If you can get it at all, lending becomes more expensive. And what you ultimately find is that a lot of those small and kind of maybe not necessarily significant decisions are significant on your credit score. Experian and ClearScore both have free tiers, and you just enter in your information and you can see what your credit score is. Now, you don't have to check it every day, you don't have to check it every hour, it's not like minute by minute stuff, but just keeping an eye on it every so often, because ultimately if something incorrectly lands on your credit file, being able to rectify it quickly is going to be much easier. Assets are the key to wealth. Now, this is the founding principle in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and it is the thing that separates the rich dad from the poor dad. The key lesson really is that trading your time for money is only going to get you so far, and really you're going to have to trade your time for money, but then trade that money for assets that will either accumulate in value or will cash flow you. A side point that I would add to this is the earlier you can start accumulating these income generating assets, the easier it will be, and it's effectively a shortcut to get to financial freedom. You don't need to be saving for something specific to be saving. Pick a finance book, pick a finance person on YouTube, including me, and they will all tell you that having an emergency fund is worth doing. Some say 3 months, some say 6 months, but wherever you land on that spectrum, saving is worth doing. But it's not necessarily true to say that you only need to be saving money for something specific, a new car, a holiday, whatever it is. Having money in your back pocket is always going to be worthwhile, and so making sure that it's something that you're doing, even if the money's not going to go to something specific, is definitely a good habit to get into as early as you can. Your salary increases won't be sufficient. We're living in a high inflation environment. Inflation has come down a lot recently, but it's still kind of above where it should be. And so what this ultimately means is you're in a situation where your salary increases ultimately aren't going to be beating inflation on a consistent basis. And so really taking responsibility for trying to increase your salary year over year is ultimately your responsibility. Now, I know it can sound like quite a glib thing to say, just earn more. It's much easier said than done, but there will never be a time where your employer will want to pay you more than you're worth, whether that's through your primary job, whether that's through, secondary income, whether that's through a side hustle, not being reliant on a single income. It can be a huge boost, and it can feel like a real safety net to know that actually you've got something else that you can fall back on if ever you needed to. Life admin is important. You figure out pretty quickly that bills don't go away if you ignore them, even if you can't afford to pay them. It is just something that can save you so much hassle. Making sure your car insurance is renewed, making sure you're making your monthly credit card payments, making sure your mortgage is going out, as much of that as you can automate as possible is just, it's bliss. Less life admin. Get rich quick isn't a thing. Everyone has a story. Someone who they went to uni with, won $1 million in a poker tournament, crypto bro, or some such nonsense. But it's always important to remember that these are the exceptions, not the rules. For the most part, and the way most people get rich is consistent application of good habits. It's saving consistently, it's investing consistently. A lot of these scams that are going around, hey, get into the next Dogecoin or whatever, they really prey on this idea of getting rich quickly, and if it sounds too good to be true, then it probably is. Being a faithful employee isn't what it used to be. It used to be the case that you would start at a company, you would work there for 40 years, they'd take care of your pension, you could rise the ranks quickly, all of that good stuff. I think it's safe to say that a lot of that has completely fallen away. And so, in my own personal experience, I generally move jobs every couple of years, and I found that it's when you make those jumps between companies that I've really been able to have the biggest salary jumps. So thanks very much for watching. This is our second video about money lessons that they didn't teach you at school. And make sure you're subscribed. Our next video is going to be money lessons that I wish someone had taught me sooner. So watch it to make sure you're taking your financial education to the next level. Thanks very much for watching. This has been another video from Modern Money Talk, where we talk all things personal finance, personal development related. How do you think we did? Comment below if we've missed anything, and make sure you've liked and subscribed. Peace out.